Okay. I was saying before. So what we did was to run a command Python manage.py. Then we run a server, right? We run server. So I'm having some errors. Okay, I have to cd inside block. Adam, Nufrek, please mute your mic. Okay, all right. So Python manage.py help. Okay, like I was saying before, we've been able to explain the start project. Then we also explain the start app, right? Then another thing we are going to be looking at here is make migration and migrate. Now, this make migration and migrate is actually used to write your models, right? Your models to database. Now, what I mean writing your model to database is that when you create a model, at that particular time, those models are not yet in your database. If you, for instance, let me give you more explanation. If I can have like some few documents, so I can get proper explanation on that. So the migration, uh, make migration we um, used to create uh, let's see, you can use it to create a kind of um, a statement, right? A kind of let's say, for instance, you created a profile models or maybe registration models. Mentally, you wrote make migration, it will create a file and also uh, it will also create those model, those class instances you created in your models. It will going to be writing them in a different folder, in a different file rather. So the purpose of doing this is to enable you, please mute your mic, is to enable you be able to write these things to the database, make it hit migrate. So make migration will create a copy of your model, but the copy of the model would not really uh, will not contain the raw data of your model, rather it will contain the data of your model written in MySQL. If you notice what I explained the other day, I said you can access the database directly with Django. You need to come through the models, right? The model. When it comes to the model now send a query to database. So what my Make migration is doing is that my migration is creating the database query or SQL query that can enable you communicate to the database directly. While migrate function is used to write those tables. Let's say, for example, you write name, address. So when you hit make migration will write a query that will be able to write that address, have those value in your database, which is your PHP admin or any kind of database you are using. While migrate will now write those name, first name and last name inside your database. Let me elaborate more on this. Let me just bring the diagram so that you can understand. So let me just get a new document. Okay, let me insert. Let me insert. So draw. You can see that it's not disconnecting again. To show you that this my this all this my what's they call it? All this my useless antivirus. Okay, now let me we have we have this as our database, right? So this is our database. Then we have this as our model. So we have this as our model. So inside this model, let's say we have full name, full name, phone number, and let's include like password, password. So I'm bringing this inside this model. I'm bringing inside this model. So inside this model, so inside this model, we have this already written in our model, right? We have a full name and phone number and email. Well, let's call this model. We're also going to be uh, taking another one for database. I want to take my time to explain what migration is all about. Database. So we have the database here. This is actually the database, right? So when you look at what's really going on here, we know that model in Django um, is a file that contains all information regarding our database. So this full name, phone number, and password are the model we already created. Pending when a certain condition are met, then it will now officially write this information here. So when you are done writing your model, this cannot move here directly until a certain command are executed. Now let me also call some file here. Uh, then I can say make migration. Okay. So we have make migration here. So I need an arrow to be able to explain more of this. So 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 here we have make migration. Now what's really happening here? Sorry. I think I also have to move this so I can get notice arrow. So Whenever you are done writing your models or your class or whatever, then the next thing you are going to do is to make migration, right? Now, what is really the functionality and the importance of this make migration? I'm going to be using diagram to explain that in details for you, so you can be able to understand the basic of this make migration and migrate, so that it uh, will not be a bit confusing for you. Now, when you write this make migration, this will happen. This will happen. So what happens is here is that the make migration will create a file. Inside this file is an SQL statement on how this can be written in the database. So you're going to be creating a file. After you've done that make migration, a file will be created, right? I'm trying to, okay. Then a file will be created. Let's call it, let's say migrate, make migration, make migration dot py. So now, immediately you immediately you run your make migration, then the make migration will create a default file. In that default file, this is where all the hard work are being carried out. If most of you, okay, nobody has any experience in PHP here. Some people who have experience in PHP, you will do this job manually, right? Now let me show you something. Get get table, get table in my SQL, my SQL query. I'm trying to get the MySQL code. So now, what's really happening here is that immediately you hit make migration, it will create a file. For instance, just as an instances now, migration.com .py. Now in this migration.py, what file are you expecting to get? You are getting where all the back end uh, activities are being carried out. How these things are being written in the database. So usually this make migration, writing it in database, you are the one that's supposed to write them, write a program that will make this information stored on the database automatically. But Python does not give you that provision. So Python has already done all the whole job for you. The huge job of writing SQL query. A lot of programming has to come into place. Instead of doing that job, Python has just one single command that you need to call upon, and the command will be able to write all those necessary programming terms you need to write in order to migrate this. So what migration does is that it prepares those files for you to be able to push them to a database, so that whenever a user want to comes in, he will see full name. When he type his full name, phone number, and password, and hit submit, it goes directly to this place. But it cannot work. It cannot be possible. For this, for now, what you can see here is that the database is empty. Nothing is inside this database. For something to be inside this database, we need to meet up some criteria. We need to write some files to meet up to able to see that something is here. I'm trying to see if I can get any of the query in Stack Overflow so that you can understand. Now, what's really going on here is that immediately you hit the migration button, it's going to create a file. Inside that file, you will have all the patterns, the way the proper code Django have already written to be able to store this information, this value. They want to store this value in the database so that whenever your user comes in, they can make use of that value. Now, when you are done with make migration, what's really going on here is that the main migration have created a file for you, right? It has created a file for you. The main migration have created a file for you. In this file, there are a lot of code, a lot of programs, a lot of patterns. How this we're able to how you can be able to write this in the database. But like I said, you are not doing those things manually. This is a framework. So this has already been done. Then what you need to do is to call on the command, make you call on the command and hit the send button. It will create that particular file automatically. I'm going to elaborate more on this in depth when we start creating our application. You get to understand what my migration does. Then after we have done this, we now move to uh, migration stage. So after you have done this, we now move to what? To migration what stage? In the migration stage, we have in the migration stage, how we call migrate, right? Not make migration, migrate. Are you guys with me? Okay, this is what is happening here. We have the Django system has able to structure all our programs, all all the information we need. It has been written and well explained, well written, and well structured. Now, after that has been done, the next command we are going to run is what? Migrate. Now, immediately you run migrate, all those information you see here will now be moved to this place. We now have the full name, the phone number, and the password inside this database. So whenever you want to get those information here, you have to call in the name here because this name here is still the name here. So here is just the value, here is just the container. So the value can the user has a responsibility of entering a value for that. So whenever you enter a value here and you want to get the value of that name, you don't need to call the name and then you get the value. Are we communicating? Huh? Are we communicating at all? So now, what make migration does is that make migration will create a file that will do all the hard job for you. All the hard job of writing SQL query that can be able to communicate to this database. So that's what make migration does. It's a command that does that. Now, when you click on migrate, it automatically push all this information to the database. Are we communicating? Any question, any clarification before I move ahead to another this thing? Okay. In this model, in this model, what you require to write here in this model are your classes and their instances. Now, you have the field, right? Remember, the purpose of this model is to collect information from users, right? And store them in the database. Like you write, like we if we recall well, if we recall in the last class, we discussed extensively on the model, the relationship between the model and the database, right? So you can't get information directly from the database. You have to pass through the model instance or the model field. When you pass through this model field, you can be able to get any whatever you are looking for in this place. Now, what you are required to do in this model is to write in your your field, right? Provide the field you want the user, or the field you want to collect from the user. It's all about collecting, all about getting data from users, right? That's why you're having this. Getting data from users, then you submit this data in the database. Now, like other traditional programming language, all this thing will be written from scratch. For you to be able to write all this thing, you have to be written from scratch, right? You write it from scratch, but it's actually time consuming. If you look at the time amount, the amount of time invested in writing just this few things, it's going to take you hours. But in Django as a framework, those hard things have been done already for us. So don't need to be writing from this, select this, write this. So these jobs have been done already. So what you need to do is to call just need to do is to call in a command, make migration, it will write those, do those hard job for you, then call migrate, you push those things in the database. So what you be doing in this model is to write your field, the field you need, and then run your migration, then migrate, it goes to the database. I hope that have answered your question. Any other question? Any other question? Yes, exactly. That's what's happening here. Now remember, whatever you are putting here has to be database related. So if you're writing a function, you don't need to put the function here. The function should be on your view. We don't know how to do, we won't know about that one. So whatever you are doing in your model here has to be strictly on your database. So you are doing your database design, maybe you are doing your flow chart. You look at the flow chart, and whatever that is coming here has to be strictly in your database. That is what is happening there. That's the functionality of make migration. So let's move on to other commands. I'm going to be looking at more of the most important one is the one I'm going to be looking at now. So this one, the few I just mentioned now are the one we are going to be using often. But doesn't mean that we are not going to be using all this one. Even me, I've not used all this what do they call it? She's getting big. Okay. So, you can see that my network now is stable. There are these the what's they call it? This useless antivirus and the security features. The firewall just blocking my this thing. I wish I did this thing now for the enjoy you. Uh, yes. That's one of the tasks. That's one of the tasks you have to go. No, that's one of the tasks you have to go and read. I'm not teaching you all. So it's actually one of the things you need to go and study. I will definitely bring a project for it. So to go and do, you know, our class now. After you go and project, if you like, no go study them. You are doing yourself. Okay, I think that is all for um make for command. So the okay, sorry, the another one I for also forget to throw my light on. So we have load. We have one is called create super user. So create super user. I don't see if I can say it here. Might as well create super user. Create should be in C. Okay, look at it here. So change password and create super user are actually used for authentication. So when you look at it, you can see that we have authentication. So these are used for authentication. When it's authentication means that you can use them for user security features like create a super user. So create super user, you can use it to create an admin account, right? Admin account where you can use to log in, right? Also going to use change password. You want to change password, you can do that in the world in the terminal. But we are going to be facing more of reality very soon, where we build the real world application. We've started already, and the more we push on, the more we get to also understand. I think that having said that, let's move straight to the. I've already explained this. Let's move straight to this folder here called block. Now, when you look at here, we have two folder. One is the one folder is the one that houses all our Python project. While the second folder is the folder that houses all our settings, right? Now, the folder are the same. So this first folder is what we call a primary folder. Why this other one, or we call it we can call it a can just call it this what's the name just call it a root folder. It's just like your root folder, right? Now another thing is that we have here init. Now this init is actually a file. It's empty, you can't see anything there. When they call it the init, it's actually a file you can use for to identify a package. So this used to identify a package, right? Now a package means that you can be able to import every of the files inside here. If you don't have this init here, it automatically it will not be it will have defeated the purpose of being a package. Even though you import it, you are going to receive an error. So this init means stand for package. So to use it to write a package so that you can import that package to another file. So now init it's actually used to declare a folder as what as a package. Like I already said it, like which allow Django to use from different application, right? You can import it and use it in different world application. So that is it. Then just hold on. Let me use the rest. I'm coming. Let me use the rest. Okay, I'm back. Are you guys there? Okay. Okay. Any question? Hmm? Now the next one is this what do they call it? Um ASGI dot py. Now this is actually used for deployment, right? Um if you want to deploy your application using a WSGI, right? Now this WSGI just like they also kind of uh, I don't know, web server, it's a kind of a web server services, right? I will look to that later. But this actually used in deploying your application. If you want to deploy your application live, this is where this one actually comes in, comes in on board. So Jada used to what to deploy what your application. So whenever you want to deploy application, then you can then you can then look into that. For now, it is not needed. Uh, it's not needed for now. So like I said, it is used to deploy what your application. Another one we are going to look at is setting, right? Now, before I do that, I would like to go through Django documentation because what we have here is quite very huge. Um, I have to go through Django documentation to be able to do that. But before then, let me explain what we have here in the setting. I mean, if you are seeing my screen, if you are seeing my screen, let me know. So here we have a part, right? We imported a part. So this, remember, these files, we are not the creator, right? We didn't write any of this file. All these files were automatically written and they were automatically created as we call in the Python manager.py start project. So here you are having your part lab, right? So this part lab, import part, this part sounds like just sound like a directory, right? A directory where you are getting something from. So that's the meaning of the part. Now, we also have uh, basic directory. Now, this basic directory is actually a part. It's actually a part you can. It's actually a part you can leverage on to be able to access a file in your root folder. Now, the reason why we are calling this basic directory equals to part is because if, for instance, I am using maybe I have a PDF file or maybe I want to be writing a PDF file or Excel file in my program. Now I decided to move this software to like to a different machine, right? To move it to a different machine. If you don't use this part and you try to run that application, try to get that PDF file, it will going to be we're going to be having part issues. It will be very very difficult to take that file correctly. You need to come and do that manually. And when you are building a project, you will be deploying live, and different people may decide to okay contribute in that project and use it. So it's almost very very important to follow the right procedure. Now if you read they say build part inside the project like this, so this part here will fetch anything that comes that's inside this uh, basic directory or inside this inside this primary directory. So anything that comes in here goes inside this parent directory. Now let's move on to line 23. So this line 23, if you read what line 23 say here, another thing I forgot to also to mention is that you can follow this documentation to be able to read through to understand what each of every of this function is doing here. Now let me move on to this one. Line 22 has to do with the security, right? It says security warning, keep the secret key used in production, right? Keep the secret key used in production secret. So now when you are deploying this application, what it means that when you are deploying this application live, this secret key don't have to be here, right? You need to put it in an environmental file so that people can see it, right? So this is actually a secret key for your Django application. Whenever you created Django file, it will create a secret key. Now this here, this place here we have debugging, right? Debug equals to true. Now this debug equals to true means that I'm currently in development process. So every error that I'm having will be well explained, will be well stated down. So if I am having error and the debug is equals to true, it means that I will see where the error is coming from, the file number when it's coming from, the reason of that error. In summary, without having, without maybe having any just short a few error. So what happened here is that when the debug equals to true, it means that when error occurred, you will have full details of what is really going on the system. Are we communicating? Okay, now I move on to line 28. Now line 28 we have what we call allow host. Now this allow host can only be used if you want to deploy your application live. It can only be used this one if you want to deploy your application live. That's when you can be able to have us utilize this what's it called it allowed host. Now let me also explain. Remember, we are running our Python locally, sorry, our Django locally in what we call a local server, which is a port, right? A port 192 something something. Now, if you want to run your Python in a domain, Django application in a domain name, a customer domain name, without running it inside a port, you need to pass the domain name here. For the purpose of this learning, let me show you something. I like when I'm teaching, I like going more in depth so that you can get clear a practical example of what I'm trying to explain. Man, I'm very happy. I've been able to resolve this issue of network that I've been having for more than how many months now. I've been battling this thing for months. Oh. If you guys will notice, I've been battling this issue of this network for months now. But thank God I've been able to fix that issues. So let me go to where we have our back end our application. I think that should be yes, Adama issues. Adama. Okay. Um I'm trying to okay. This here will have the portal. Okay, this here will have the setting. Okay. If we move down, we can see my debug is close to true. Let me put it to false. I think we've done with the project. If I have any other error. Hey, somebody contacted me today. Oh, Charles. Oh. Okay. Are you guys seeing this? So you notice that here I pass in my my the way I want my domain to be accessed with this or without www dot. Are you guys seeing it there? So that is the work of the that is the work of the allowed host. So you allowed host is used to pass in your domain, the domain you want to use to access your application. Are we communicating? So let's move back to our this thing. So now we also have installed application. Here already we already have application that Django has already installed. Applications such like admin. Admin, we are going to be looking further on this admin. We have authentication. Now this authentication has to do with the registration, the user reception model, the login models, the sign up models, forget password model, change password models, delete account models. So this has to do with what the has to do with authentication. Then this one is not necessary. Now also we have what we call Django's dot contrib dot session. Now this session means that whenever you log in, the system can be able to identify that you already logged in, right? So this is what we call a section. Now, you have to take cognizance of this. Whenever you create an application, you must store that app. You must what? Register that application. So this is where you register your app in install what? Install application. So whenever you create an app, for that app to work efficiently, you have to what? Store that app. You have to store that app in the what? Installed app. If you don't install that app in the install app, not going to work. So whatever you are doing, you are wasting your time. The another one we have here is the middleware. Now this middleware is actually the security features that protects Python, Django against hackers and against SQL injection. That's why this platform are built. No matter how you are good in hacking, in fact, hire somebody, let him come and hack that side. They cannot hack it. And but those that you come and hack it, they can't hack it. Are you getting me? You see about those they should come and hack the site. They can never hack it the site. It is not possible to hack. So this actually security, we call it middleware. It has to do with a lot of security features that protect you against hackers. So somebody was asking me, I don't know if it's in this class or the other of my online class students. They were asking me, they were asking me, I said, is it this class? Said how is the security of your software, um, the security of your software, does it depend on the software engineer or the server? And my response was that it all depends on the program you are using. So if you are using Django, for instance, the security of your project depends solely on Django, right? Django has these security features that can at least give you maximum security protection about 60%. Before someone can hack into your website, it has to pass through a lot of stress for him to do that. Then this is root URL configuration, it's just normal stuff that is there. Now, this one we have here is the template. Now, this is a place where you can be able to link your HTML template to your Django application. So people may wonder, how can I be able to link? I can't wait to start writing code. Let me see how I can be able to link my Django application to my HTML. So this is where you pass in the template, right? If you come in here, you notice that apart also passing a code, a template. So I pass in a template. So if you notice here, you can see I pass in what? A template here. A template is a folder name where I have all my HTML documents, HTML files. So let me elaborate more on that so that you get in-depth understanding. Now when you come here in my, you will notice that I have the template. Then inside this template here, this is where all my HTML will go through in this particular project. All my HTML documents, this is where they go through inside the what? The template. So that's why we have the template here. So every HTML document, every HTML folder or file goes into your template. So this template must be located inside your parent folder. That's why you are calling this OS path join, then basic directory. You call what? You call your your template folder. So, like I was saying, all your HTML document goes inside what? Inside the template application. Now, we are going to also be looking into this. We have the message authentication. This has to be researched. We have the Django document to research and get about that. So, next one here is the database. This one, the database connection. So in this database connection here, currently we are using what we call MySQLite, right? So this is the database engine, and this is the database name that I have created. Now, if you notice, we are using basic directory. Like I said, whenever you want to connect a file in Django that is in same that is in their local machine, you need to use what? Basic directory. Without that, the the file cannot be the Django application cannot read the file. So whenever maybe you are building a software, maybe that can convert a PDF or to Excel, maybe someone registered, you have to convert the person information to Excel and send to their email. So you need to use this base directory. It has already been imported by default. Now, all the information you are seeing here, we are all created by Django in default. It wasn't created by us, right? But that does not mean that we're not going to be writing codes. We're going to also be creating our own file as well. Are we communicating? Okay, now, if you notice, if you look at there, we have DB, right? DB.SQL, which is what we have in here. So this automatically created, right? Now, if I change this name now to DB, DB, maybe main, sorry, where am I? Okay, I can say main, main.db. Later I hit the submit button, it's going to create another file, main.db. So I can just, okay, delete this. This is a database. So after I've done that, so when it definitely will create main.db, it will create when we, so maybe we will run migration or do any other thing, it will definitely create and write those migration inside them. So this is actually password token, password authentication. So Django has inbuilt password uh, validation. So here is the password validation for you. So Python, Django already written password validation. Don't need to do a lot of work, a lot of huge work to validate your password. Django have already done that password validation. So this is actually time zone. Time zone. So this has to do with time zone. They actually have documentation for it. You will go and read the time zone. Now, another one we have here is the status file. Now, if you look at here, you see status file, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and images, right? Now, this status file has to do with the images, the control of your images, control of your HTML and CSS. How you can be able to communicate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to Django. So you do that in the status file. Let me also show you what the work of the status file. So when you come here, you will see that we have what? Status file, right? We have status file. I'm not people are saying it. Okay, let me. Have you seen it now? Is it clear now? I'm with you. Okay, like I was saying. So here is the status file, right? So the you know the funny thing, your files, the HTML and CSS file can never be in the same directory. Like your CSS has to be in a different directory. HTML has to be in a different directory. Your images has to be in a different directory. far from what you are doing. This is how secure it is. So that if you put if there's a malware in the image, it will not affect the HTML page. Are we communicating? Are we communicating? So let's move ahead. Let me try as much as to round up this class. So basically, I think I have been able to explain everything that you need to know about the setting. But that does not mean that we will not add more things. When we start building, the remaining one will be our we'll be using our handling all those ones, adding all those ones. Like if you come to the one I've already built, like my own setting, you will see that there's a lot of differences and modification there, right? So there's a lot of modification I've been able to do in my own setting dot py. Let me bring that out. I'm trying to see how I can get that. Okay. Now, when you come here, you will notice that we have quite numbers of things, right? We have quite numbers of importation here, right? Then after that, you're also going to scroll down. You notice that we have in our install app, you're not scrolling. Oh my God, my God, my God, my God, my God. Hey, this is almost 12. Oh my God. Hey, we have to round up. We have to round up. We need to round up, guys, please. The most of us are going to work tomorrow. Okay. I think I'll have, okay, tomorrow is Sunday. That's true. I know, and I know, see, in the break, you